Welcome back to CFB Nation. I'm your host, Nino Brown. I got my guy, Mr. Get It Done, aka D Now. He's in the building. And when you see us on the screen, you already know the time. It's Devy Dollins. Before we get into it, when we break it down, you can see the guy. We'll talk about him in a few minutes. I'm going to talk to my guy and see how he's doing today. Yeah, talk to him about this episode you dropped a little earlier today. What's good?
Yeah, so me and KT, we talked about the upcoming signing day, who could flip, the whole Dylan, sorry,
Hey,
rail
hey,
saga.
yeah. Yeah.
So yeah,
I caught a little bit of it. I made a comment in the group chat. I'll make it live on air. So if they want to rip me apart, they can rip me apart. I have a feeling Dylan Raiola is going to be Arch Manning 2.0 and not live up to the hype. Anybody for me that goes to 3 high schools, 4 high schools, decommits and commits to 3 different schools, you could say he's got a commitment problem. I just think he's not ready. That he don't think he can be what they think he's going to be.
not even just three high schools, like three high schools across the country.
3 major high schools.
Yeah,
Major. Not
yeah,
like I worked my way. 3 elite high school programs. Granted, he was the dude,
yeah.
but he's always had dudes.
Hmm.
We'll see what happens. Uh, right now, we're going to talk about a young man who's trying to become a dude. He flashed a little bit this year in college football. He had that one game where I think everybody kind of, who is this guy and why do I need to learn a little bit more about him? But we're going to stop back at the beginning. This guy is Avery Johnson. And it's Avery Johnson. This is the question. Is he the future of Kansas State football? 6'2", 108 pounds out of Mays, Kansas. He went to Mays High School in Kansas. He was the number 9 QB in the 2023 class. It depends on where you go. Could be 9, could be 8, could be 10. Depends if you're going 24/7, rivals on 3. I seen all 3 different rankings, but yeah, he's right around that 8 to 10 in the class. And he was the number 1 QB coming out of Kansas. Now, you look at this gentleman on the screen, and you're like, oh, yeah, he's a baller, right? But I think what D-Now is going to tell you a little bit about, I had a feel when I was looking at this, I'm like, oh, this screams D-Now. Like, he loves stuff like this.
I do. I do. I'm a sucker for the multi-sport high school athletes. So, and speaking of that, Avery played 2 sports in high school: football and basketball. In basketball, he averaged 11 points per game, 2.7 rebounds, 3 assists, and 2 steals. So a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
He was part of the Elite 11 for football, and he was a participant in the Under Armour All-American game. So I mean, I just love the gritness, the kids who keep themselves busy, because like a lot of sports can be transitioned back into football and stuff. So I don't know. I enjoy that.
I enjoy kids that will do whatever it takes to better their craft. Like, you see these
Mhm.
kids doing track and fields, right? Like, there's a risk that they could blow a hammy, right? There's a risk that they could ruin everything. But there's also the benefit that they can gain from, that track and field training, right? Playing ball, the hops, right? Yes, you wear and tear on your body, but you're also fine tuning different, muscles and tendons where that works. Look at Jimmy Graham, right? Jimmy Graham had longevity, left the NFL, came back because of his athleticism. This young gentleman right here, he has this athleticism, and it was on display in small amounts this year, but it was not in small amounts at Mays High School. In his senior year alone, 13 games, right? He was 153 out of 228. So, yeah, he's not a one-trick pony. He can throw the ball. 67.1%. He had 2,768 yards, 29 touchdowns to 3 picks. I don't want to hear anything about, oh, he's just a mobile QB. Man, that TD to INT ratio is probably better than, I'm going to go with 80% of this class that played.
Better than
This
my
year.
team's quarterback.
You know what? I'm just talking about his class. I ain't even talking about, upper class. I'm just saying in this class, his numbers is better than 80%. And it's crazy because guys like him and Aiden Childs, who kind of were overlooked in this class, skyrocketed, right? Because they got chance to play, because they went to a school that gave them an opportunity. But let's
100%.
talk about a little bit more about my guy. So, yes, he had 29 and 3. He also had right around 100 attempts for 817 rush yards, 8 yards a pop. And he had 15 touchdowns. You're talking about 44 total touchdowns in the season. One human being accounting for 44 touchdowns. Man, he's got to be special. Tell me a little bit more about him.
So yeah, I just want to hit on this 8 yards per carry. I watched almost 3 games of his, and they ran nothing but the shotgun.
Right.
So still 8 yards out of the shotgun. That's even more
It's like
credit to him.
13 yards per carry. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? Yeah.
yeah. So on top of that, he had two 100-yard rushing games. He had a 65-yard reception for a touchdown, and he held over 24 offers from your big dogs: Oregon, Notre Dame, Washington, Auburn, Florida State, and almost the entire SEC. But he ultimately chose Kansas State, which surprised a lot of people because at the time they had Will Howard, who
Right.
was locked in. So
Times changed in 2023. There's a lot
yes,
more
they did.
opportunities and
It could have
windows and
changed
doors
because of
open.
this man right here.
Yeah. Hey, he Will Howard for me going into this year, gunslinger. Sit in that pocket, rip your pot, go through progressions. I move when I need to move, right? I'm not going to go rip off 25-yard runs. Oh, touche, my friend, because this year he was ripping off 25-yard runs, 15-yard runs. He knew he had to. He
Mm-hmm.
knew that there was a guy behind him that had the capability to bring that in because right off rip, week 2, here he comes, right? Avery Johnson's getting snaps. Same thing I said with Aiden Childs. If you are a true freshman that has a legitimate veteran QB in front of you, that they are manifesting snaps to get you on the field, there's a reason. You have talent, and your talent cannot be put on the depth chart. You need to play now, which means the guy in front of you better wake up. Well, he's going to be up at a different location when he wakes up, a la what we have seen happen this year in many schools. Let's talk a little bit about this freshman year, okay? They manifested snaps for him. Okay, he played in multiple games. There was a couple of games that jumped off the screen to me, but he went 23 out of 35, so almost 66% completion while throwing the ball. 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. That's fine with me. That's good. That's Aiden Childs numbers right there, right? 45 attempts, 225 yards, 5 touchdowns in one game, 6 total touchdowns on the season. I say this with Aiden Childs again because both of these gentlemen did not get as much look, hype, or even breakdown as the top 5 QBs in this class. And at this moment right now, with production, they're about top 5 in this class with what they produced in year 1 versus TCU. And this was really the game for me. This isn't the 5-touchdown game. This game against TCU, which was the week prior to the Tech game, was the game I was like, all right, this kid's got it. 5 for 10 for 90 yards and a touchdown. Listen, I'm gonna break it down. We talk about his attributes, but in this game alone, he threw an absolute perfect touch pass down the side, 31 plus. I think it was 31 yards, might have been 32 yards, but it was a 30+ yard pass to Jace Brown down the side. Put that thing in the bucket in his hands when nobody else could get it. He got that. Okay, 5 for 10 for 90, a touchdown. He also had 16 attempts for 73 yards. Following week against Tech, the 90 yards on the ground, 5 touchdowns, but he went 8 for 9 for 77 yards. Efficient when throwing the ball. I really, really like it. Dino, talk to me about some of his attributes right off the rip. You can just do yours first.
All right. Yep. So, like you said, he's really smart. He checks his progression. He doesn't single his target right away. He knows where everyone's going to be. Checks down 1, 2, 3. When he decides to run, he's really patient, which I think might be his best attribute as a freshman. He waits for the holes to open up, all the blocks to be where they need to be, and then he's gone. His dual threat ability makes the defense lose a defender in coverage. His 20-yard and under throws have pop. Like, there's some serious zip on him, and because of his athletic ability, he's a defensive nightmare. Like, you don't know, honestly, if he's going to pull it, run, or, like you said, hit you with one of those beautiful passes 30+ yards down the field. So, I mean, the defense always has to be on their toes.
Yeah, we'll get into the play at comp, but I think both of one of the guys that we got, it just kind of screams because of, like, sits in the pocket, waits, boom, boom, okay, now I can go. But even when he starts to make that run towards the line, he's still looking to throw the ball. Just enough way. You get a couple guys to cheat, get a little hungry. They're thinking they're going to go make a big hit, and all of a sudden he just got a quick zipper right to the tight end or to the guy in motion, and the play continues. Speaking of which, he can throw on all platforms. He can throw on the run. He can sit in the pocket and pick your apart as well. He didn't have to do it as much, like I said, because Howard was there. But in a small sample size of what I did see, I really liked speed. Okay, he's a tall gentleman. Okay, 6'2", 6'3". So I think it's 191 now, 188 going into the year, right? So I would assume going into the season probably about 200 pounds. With off-season weight training. He's got the speed. He's got the speed to go straight line. He also has the speed to get around that edge. So like, if you're on edge or a safety, or you think you can smoke him on the outside, be prepared. He will test your cleats. You better have him tightened up and ready to go. The other thing I liked about him, moves well in the pocket. Like, it's just everything is smooth, and so he's tall. He's like he looks lanky because he's skinnier and he's 6'3", but like he just moves well in the pocket. He's kind of got an upright of kind of like a Usain Bolt run, but he's got them big strides, so he eats up yards quickly. And so if you don't, it's like a gazelle, because as soon as he kind of gets out of the pack, he just 1, 2, the next one, the next. He ate up 7 yards in like 3 strides. Holy cow! Now he's got a body length on the linebacker. It's kind of crazy if you think about it. I mentioned the touch pass. I was blown away. I really was blown away by it, because in high school, a lot of the time, he was just throwing cannons, right? Deep balls were just, I'm going to fire the ball as far as I can. That dude's already smoked his defender by 3 body lengths. Or I'm going to play action and everybody's going to jump on me, and I'm going to throw it, 15 yards downfield to a guy who's holding a neon sign wide open. But in college, it's different, right? The guys you're playing against are pretty much just as good as you. Some of them aren't, but if you're a 1 or a 2, the talent level's right there. And he was firing away, and I like to see it. Let's get into these player comps a little bit, because I think people are going to be a little bit of surprise. I'm going to let you go first. Talk to me.
Yeah, so I want to preface mine by, if Avery Johnson had played 20, 25 years ago, stud, even more than what he has the potential to be right now. And so my first comp is Eric Crouch, the great Nebraska quarterback. And I solely put him on there just pure athleticism. When I was watching the high school tape of that 65-yard reception, I was like, okay, this is 2000 Nebraska.
Yeah.
Throw it to Eric Crouch. He's going to dust everyone. But the second comp, which you seem to really like, is Seneca Wallace, the old Iowa State quarterback. I know him like no other, growing up in the state of Iowa. His game is almost a mirror image of Seneca Wallace. He could pull it whenever he wanted to, and then next thing you know, that beautiful touch pass. He had just enough speed to get to the outside, burn you in the run game. Really underrated as a college quarterback.
Oh, there's Milkbox. You start talking Nebraska, he finds a way.
Oh, yeah.
He's got a buzzer. The bat signal goes off in the air.
Nebraska.
Yeah, right. GBR just flashes in his house. The red phone rings. But yeah, like with Seneca Wallace to me is I love the Iowa State days, but it was that first year in the NFL, right, with Seattle, like kind of because he was a little bit ahead of his time, right? He was the post-Flutie era. It was kind of like they were first kind of really starting to accept mobile quarterbacks. They were trying to find the guy, right? Like McNabb, like and that like clique of guys. But I just liked the way he moved, man. He was so shifty. He was the Chico. He was the Mike Vick in Madden. Like you put him in, you subbed him in for whoever was the guy starting, and he was just a stud. It was the escapability. He could make one small little movement, like just a drop of the shoulder, quick, jab step, which back then there was no such thing as a jab step. These guys had it. They may have called it something else, but it was almost like a Euro. They had that back then. He was a dude, and for that reason,
he broke my. Sorry to interrupt, but he broke my heart. 2002, closest Iowa ever got to a national championship, lost because of Seneca Wallace.
It took it over, put a game on his back, and it was done. I'm gonna go with the same style player. Had success in the NFL outside of what he did personally. I'm talking about as a player, Colin Kaepernick. Okay, the upright running, just the long arms, the way he can like cock back and let it go. Kaepernick had a howitzer. We all remember the downfall of him, but the 2 years where he was good, he had some touch to him as well, and that he the 49ers were so good in those years because he took a linebacker away. He took a linebacker out of the hole, right? He just took a guy away, which made that run game so much better, which made that short and intermediate passing game so much better. If they put the pieces around Avery Johnson in the portal and recruiting, man, this kid could really take off next year. I like the style he's playing in. I think he's a better prospect than Colin Kaepernick was, because Colin Kaepernick was kind of like a nobody, had one big year in college where he kind of like excelled, kind of like a Trey Lance, but better, right? And then went to the NFL and did have success. It took him a little bit, but he did have success. I think Avery Johnson can have instantaneous success and just building that to get himself into this talk where, 2026, he might be a duel we're talking about as a top 5 QB because of his dual threat capability. So
I'm going to say it's going to be Avery Johnson versus Noah Fafita next 2 years, battling for the Big 12.
Listen,
I'm excited for that.
I love it, and I'm going to go out there and say this too. Maybe not this year. He could be a dark horse coming up in 2024. But 2025, Noah Fafita is a Heisman candidate. And if you
100%.
don't believe me, you need to go back and watch some tape from this year. The fact that they are putting pieces around him that he is super familiar with, went to high school with, like, why do you think T-Mac didn't leave? That's his QB, right? Oh, the tight end. That's his QB. Oh, the linebacker. That's his QB. Like, they're putting the pieces around. They're doing well in the portal. I have a funny feeling people are going to be talking about Noah Fafita and Avery Johnson a lot come next season in college football. I'm Nino Brown. That's my guy, Mr. Get It Done, Dino. Once again, this is Devy Dollins. We tell you all the time, throw a name in the chat. Hit us up on Twitter. We'll break it down. I think next week is what, Carnell Tate, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we're going to be doing a gentleman out of Hawaii in Pof Ashlock, who is just, man, he is something special to watch. You want to talk about a super speedy receiver that just finds a way to get open and fast? Yeah, he's a guy. And I forget the last. It's Iowa State. We're talking about Iowa State. Yep. So we'll be breaking him down as well. He's had a couple good games. Like I said, Nino Brown. This is Dino. We are Devy Dollins. We also are CFB Nation. We're out.